Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our SwiftUI tutorial series, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at a few very important concepts in SwiftUI, that being at state property wrapper, the concept of bindings, the text field, and the secure field. Alright, so let's get started by talking about let's get started by talking about the at state property wrapper and the concept of bindings. So first off, let's talk about bindings. What are bindings? Well, bindings are effectively a two-way communication channel between a view and a specific value, right? So typically, when we're talking about a binding, a view updates a value, and then it communicates that update to a value outside of the view. So the value outside the view knows what to update itself to, and then when that value outside the view changes, everything gets re-rendered. Right? So when we're talking about a UI updates and all that kind of stuff, when we're talking about a text field or a secure field, that state gets updated every time we type a new character into the text field, because when we type a character in the text field, that value changes. So every time that value changes, that change gets communicated, and when that value gets received, then a UI update is triggered. Now, this is very different from how we would handle state updates in UIKit. That was a more imperative approach. This is a more reactive approach, a more declarative approach to how things are done. So there are certain times when maybe you change something in a more advanced app and you need to force a UI update. I'll talk a little bit about how exactly that works and why we might need to force a UI update as we go further along. But for now, in the basic examples that we're going to take a look at, you don't have to force a UI update. It'll do it for you. All right. Now, the at state property wrapper is used to mark a variable in your view, a property in your view, as something that will trigger a UI update when it changes. Hence why it's marked with the at state property wrapper. It's being viewed as a bit of state for SwiftUI to watch for value changes. And it's those properties marked with at state that we will be using in our text field and secure field to make sure that it actually has text content as we type. So now that we have that out of the way, let's go into Xcode and actually create a text field and a secure field. The first step is to create those state variables I told you about. So at the top of our view, above our body, we're going to say at state, make sure it's a capital S, private var, and then we'll say username. And then we'll make this a string equals an empty string. Now, you don't need, much like many other places in Swift, you do not need to provide a type annotation, but I do it because I like to be a little bit more explicit. And I want to make sure that I 100% know what the value, what kind of value we have in a specific variable. But again, the type annotation is entirely optional. Then we'll say at state private var password string is equal to an empty string. Now, whenever either one of these properties changes, when username changes or when password changes, a UI update is triggered. Inside of the body of our view, we are going to create first a text field. Now, a text field is exactly what it sounds like. It's just like a text box that you can type in, and you can see the text that you're actually typing in. VoiceOver, if you're using VoiceOver, will announce the actual text that you're typing and all that. So there are many ways to create a text field, but the one we're going to use is we are going to give our text field's initializer a string, which will be its placeholder text. And then we are going to give it a text parameter, which is the binding to our state. So we can say text field username text : and then here, in order to tell it that this state variable is a binding, we need to use the $sign as a prefix. So $username. There we go. Now it knows what we should update every time, what state binding, whatever we should update every time a character is typed inside of our text field. It's the exact same process with a secure field. We give it a string as its first argument, which is, again, its placeholder text. And then we give it a text parameter, which is a binding to some kind of string property of state. Right? So we can say SecureField password, comma, text, $sign, password. Like that. All right. And just to show that the UI does, in fact, update, let's go ahead and have a text view down here where it'll say the username is, give it a username inside of our string interpolation. Right, like that. And the password is password. All right. So usually you're not going to want to show your password in plain text, but that, I just want to demonstrate to you that the UI does update every time we enter a new character. Now let's talk a little bit about SecureField, because I didn't really explain what this did. The SecureField is similar to a text field, as in it renders the exact same way as a text field with one vital difference, and that is the text inside of a secure field is obfuscated, so you can't read the plain text of your entry. And when you're typing in a secure field with VoiceOver, for example, it does not read to you the text you're typing. It'll make a sound effect like a click. It'll make kind of a clicking sound, but that's about it. It won't actually read to you what you have in there. And that's for security reasons. You're not going to want, when you're entering your password, you don't want VoiceOver to re-announce every character you're entering, because maybe someone's listening, or that kind of thing, right? And maybe, and you don't want the plain text in your password field if someone's looking over your shoulder, right? So that's why the secure field has its text obfuscated. Just like, for example, the password input type in HTML, it's similar in that regard. All right, so let's go ahead and save this, and we will run our code now. All right. It's building and running. All right. So here we are inside of our app. If you're running it in the simulator, it'll look slightly different because the way text fields are rendered on macOS compared to something like Vision OS or iOS or iPadOS or tvOS or watchOS, they're all rendered slightly differently. But this is on macOS. So we have our username field. You can see the placeholder text there. We'll say this. Oh, okay, I'm not typing in the username field. All right. This is a username. And then when we're in our password field, VoiceOver announces this as a secure edit text, and it does announce the placeholder text as its label. And we'll put some kind of password in here, but you saw the text beneath everything. Every time we type a character, it updates. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the text as we type in the password field. All right. So you can see that everything in the password field is obfuscated. You can't read it, but the text down beneath the two text fields, that updated every time we entered a character into both fields, and now you can see what I typed into both fields inside of that text view. All right, so that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.